Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wealth Expedition. I want to talk to you today a little bit differently than I've talked to you in times past. I really just want to speak from the heart. Given what's happened this week, there's been a lot to process, a lot on our minds, and it brings me to something that is often something that's difficult to wrestle with in the world of finance, especially even with financial advisors. We focus a lot on things to come, setting goals for things we want to do 3 and 5 years out, sometimes 20 to 30 years out, or even longer. But there's often not as much focus given to the things that we should be doing right now. There's a parable in Luke 12 that Jesus talks about, and I think it's actually really relevant for right now, this week. He talks about a rich man who had a crop. It yielded an abundant harvest, and he had more than he knew what to do with. And he wondered what he should do with it. He thought, well, I'll just build bigger barns, and I'll enjoy the rest of my life, eat, drink, and be merry. Jesus said this man was a fool. Not because he was a rich man, not because he had an abundant harvest, but what seems to be implied in the story is that he had worked his entire life up to this point to get that abundant life so that he can just simply do nothing for the rest of his life and live off of what he accumulated. The reason he was a fool, the story, was because, as Jesus said, that night the man's life ended. He died. And all that he had worked for up to that point was useless to him because he had spent his entire life accumulating, and never got to enjoy any of it. And that's something that I think as financial advisors or clients of financial advisors or anyone who's just doing personal finance, we can take a lesson from that, because what's not obvious by any means is how much we should focus on today versus how much we should focus on the future, because what we're really after is something that is going to last, going to be sustainable. Can we enjoy today without sacrificing tomorrow? So today I want to give you just 5 things that you can do to balance today with tomorrow so that we don't end up like this man, which Jesus spoke about. Number 1, take that vacation. What I mean by that is it may not even be a vacation. It may be something that you've just been wanting to do and you've been putting it off until just the right time. But it's so important that you fulfill a desire of your heart. Solomon said that a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. And it really is, because a tree of life sweetens the soul. It causes us to see beyond the goal that we had held so deeply. And when we do that, suddenly a whole vista is opened up to us. Once we satisfy that deep longing, we can now see further, and we can focus our minds on the next mountain to climb. So it's not so much about whatever it is. It's, if you have a desire, make sure that you have a goal to fulfill it, and fulfill it relatively soon, preferably this year or next if it's a really big one. But don't do it without a plan. That's why I encourage what's called a preparation fund. So if it's a vacation and it's going to cost, it's going to cost $3,000, then set up an automatic sweep to a savings account of just enough to accumulate $3,000 by the end of 12 months. That's $250 per month. Now, that might not be possible unless you do a major budget renovation, but that's where the teachings of the Wealth Expedition can really help to renovate that budget into something that is value-based, and you don't feel like you're taking away from life, but just being more intentional about what actually provides value to you in your life. So do that thing that you've been wanting to do. Make a plan. You don't have to do it tomorrow, but make a plan to do it within a reasonable time frame. Number 2, reconnect or make amends with friends or family. Make that extra effort to just go visit a friend. Talk to a family member. Just give them a call, not even just a text. Call them and do those things that really matter, because when it comes down to it, there's 5 major types of wealth. Rabbi Daniel Lapin talks about faith, family, friends, finance, and fitness. And this really comes down to friends and family. Those constitute a wealth that is priceless. And it's something that is easy to say, we'll talk to them tomorrow, we'll visit them next year. But just like taking that vacation, make sure you just be intentional about it. Number 3, make that career adjustment. So if you're in a career that you don't like, or maybe it's a career you do like, but you're in a business or a company that you don't like, don't be afraid to change careers, even if it means taking a slight pay cut. Now, why do I say that? It doesn't have to result in a pay cut, but what's important to you is that you have comprehensive wealth. That's what I teach at the Wealth Expedition. Is it's a lot about money, for sure, but it's more than money, because if you just look at money in a void, you can't enjoy it. You don't have the capacity to enjoy it. And so it comes with time, flexibility, purpose, and financial abundance. Those are the 4 pillars of wealth that I teach. And so this comes down to purpose. If you don't like what you do, start to take little steps to make that change. I know it's not easy, especially when you have bills to pay, especially when you have a spouse to support or kids to take care of. But it's important in the long term, because if you don't, and you become stressed out, overburdened, you are likely to make a decision out of desperation at some point and either quit the job or dislike the job so much that it starts to show in your work and potentially be let go. And you don't want that to happen. So what you want to do is create a sustainable work that you can enjoy, that you can find purpose in. And while that might create a challenge or a small challenge in the short term, even if it means a pay cut, if you enjoy what you do, it generally creates what's called a positive feedback loop. You can enter into your flow state, and if you love what you do, it shows in your work, and you will build from there. And you'll end up in a much better place comprehensively than you would if you just stayed at the job that you felt trapped in. Number 4, share your insights. Everybody has learned something from their journey along life, and I know that what you've learned from your past experiences, from your past education, from the people you've met, from the things you've done, it really matters. And if you tie them into an overall world view and a perspective that you can write down and express, it creates the wealth of wisdom, a wealth of wisdom that's unique to you, something that only you possess. And feel free to even share it with a close or trusted family member or friend. Talk about it, talk it out. This is the wealth that is internal more than external, but the external wealth proceeds from that internal wealth. This could be a handwritten journal, or it could be just a Word document that you save on your computer or in the cloud. But do it, and it's going to help you think through. When you write, it helps you think, and it helps you construct new neural pathways and understanding of the world and what you've experienced. And number 5, be present in the small things. Take that trip to the lake. Go on that picnic. Play with your kids. Spend 15 minutes a day and just play with them. Do those little things and enjoy them. So often we think, oh, I don't have the money to pay for this or that experience. And in fact, what really matters is not so much one-off events, but patterns. So it's really important to recognize what is a spending pattern and what is a one-off event. So when you think about taking your kids to a theme park, for example, yeah, that's expensive. Not everyone can afford it without planning ahead, and you should plan ahead. Use the preparation fund for that. But it's important to do those things, even if it means spending a little extra money, as long as you're doing it within a structured budget and you plan for it. So those things are important. It's okay to spend a little extra now and then. What's important is that you recognize patterns of spending beyond your budget. But enjoy those small things. Enjoy the little things and the big things. Those are where true wealth really lies. That's how you enjoy the wealth. External wealth is void and empty without that internal wealth. It can all be there, but it really doesn't matter. The only way to enjoy it is from the inside out. So those are 5 things that you can do that are not so financially related, but they can balance today with tomorrow. And I hope that helps us to just kind of think through comprehensive wealth this week, because it is important to focus on the financial side of things, but that's only one pillar of wealth. In fact, Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, defines 12 types of riches, with financial abundance, or what he calls economic security, being the 12th, the last of the riches, because without the first 11, the 12th can't really be enjoyed. So think about wealth in that comprehensive way. And if you're interested in learning more, go to thewealthexpedition.com, sign up for our free newsletter, and we're about to launch a very cool membership that's going to be story driven, and it's going to teach budgeting, investing, and even entrepreneurship. And it's going to talk about it in a way that's progressive so that you can go from zero to comprehensive wealth over this journey. And it's gamified, it's made into a story, a fantastical story, and it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to have a membership there with community and support from other people who are seeking the same treasure. So head over to thewealthexpedition.com if you want to learn more, and hope you guys have a great week. I'll see you next time.